TED-style vlog, tips and tricks to succeeding. My name is Steph Bennett, I'm a learning development tutor in the Hub. Today's aims: to develop an understanding of the requirements of an academic vlog in preparation for an upcoming assignment. We will look at breaking down the brief, academic reading, script writing, academic style, and moving forward. Breaking down the brief. What is my assignment brief asking me to do? Why not go and grab your assignment brief? The format is a TED-style vlog, so if you're unsure what a TED Talk is, why not head to YouTube and familiarise yourself with this? I really recommend Rita Pearson and Carol Dweck. The length is 18 minutes, that's plus or minus 10%. When we stick that into speech into minutes, you can see that around 18.1 minutes averages out at 2,350 words, which gives you a really good indicator for script writing. Why not check the submission date? Grab your phone, plot and plan what you are now going to do in the lead up to this submission. When do you need to do your academic reading? When do you need to write a script? When do you need to distill the script down into bullet points? When do you need to rehearse? When do you need to record? The overarching big picture topic for this assignment is high performance leadership. But the angle that you're viewing that from is human resource policy and strategy, theoretical perspectives of the literature, that will be from your reading list and the literature you locate yourself, and your organisation or role. And the assignment is instructing you to comprehensively explore those things and critically evaluate them. But what do these phrases mean? Comprehensively explore is to thoroughly examine and provide meticulous detail about a topic, issue or concept. And critically evaluate is to assess the value of a position, idea or piece of evidence, considering the strengths and weaknesses to help you reach a conclusion. That gives you a really good checklist now for when you write your script, and you can just have a look through it and just check, yes, I've comprehensively explored here, here and here, and I've critically evaluated here, here and here. Academic reading. Naturally, start with your reading list. Cherry pick the most suitable books and journals from the reading list to support you in your presentation. Then you need to be doing your own Boolean searching to locate literature. You can use Google Scholar or Advanced Search on WorldCat, and I'll show you in just a moment what those things look like. When you're Boolean searching, place your keywords or synonyms of those keywords in quotation marks. Separate them by the words or and if you're not looking to include something, you can use the word not. When you're thinking about what keywords you might use, why not have a look through your assignment brief and see if it gives you any hints. For example, human resources or human capital management and leadership or management. As you are a specialist in the field, your Boolean searching will be much more thorough and precise than mine is. But that's just an example for you. And here's what Google Scholar looks like. And this is what the advanced search looks like on WorldCat. So you've done some Boolean searching, you've done some academic reading, now you need to document what you found out from the reading. Why not use a synthesis matrix, or as I like to call it, a reading table? You can download these from the Learning Development Blackboard under Academic Reading. In the left-hand column, place the APA 7th reference of the source you've read or used. In the middle column, summarise what those authors are saying, any data they've included, any theories, any quotes that you think, that's nice, I could use that later on. Stick them all in the middle box. And then the far right-hand column, when you start to see authors that are saying similar things to one another, maybe they agree with one another on a topic, maybe they disagree with one another, why not stick their names in this column? This will really help you to look at both sides of an argument, to come at it from an objective point of view, and consider the strengths and limitations from the perspectives of the authors. Script writing. So we've done our Boolean searching, we've done our academic reading. Now let's get down to writing the script. Let's begin with an introduction. Around 200 words, a minute and a half long. Introduce yourself and what you're focusing on in the presentation and why you've chosen to focus on these aspects. Offer some brief background information. That'll mean citing and drawing on the literature. You might want to offer a quick breakdown of HR policy and strategy, for example, what it is or how it works, how it impacts leadership and the development of people. And you can tie this up with a map. This is like a signposted journey. This presentation will begin by, subsequently it will discuss, concluding that. This will be followed by the main body of the presentation. Think peel. We'll come back to that in just a moment. Remember that you do need to touch on engagement, mental health and well-being in relationship to HR policy and strategy and leadership and development of people. Why not allocate around 15 minutes to the main bulk of the presentation? That gives you around 1,950 words, and that gives you a better idea as to how many points you can cover in this time. So you could cover 9 points of around 200 words each, or maybe around 7 points of 250 words each. It's totally up to you. What I just wanted to do was give you an idea of how many points you could cover, what you're limited to within that time frame. And it helps you to stop going off on a tangent. So when we're thinking peel, it helps us to thoroughly explain the points and the literature we're drawing on. So make your points about HR policy regarding leadership and the development of people in relation to those 3 things I've just mentioned further up. Think about whose voices in the literature that you want to draw on to back you up. Look back at your reading table. And don't forget to synthesize to bolster your argument. Why have one author supporting what you're trying to say when you could have 3? Accordingly, Barnett, Travis and Zeeby suggest this aligns with Furness's model concerning. Then you need to explain this thoroughly. So what does the literature suggest to you about leading and developing people? Why might it be significant? And think about the impact. This will lead you on to an example where you can use your organisation and role to further bolster what you're trying to say. It might be how you've actually taken on this approach and how it has manifested within your organisation. It might be that you're suggesting we should probably do this, and this is what impact it may have, because that can help lead to a recommendation for future practice. Then you're going to wrap everything up at the end by returning to the initial point and thinking about the consequences of the evidence you've explored. And that's where we use phrases like overall or ultimately or as a result to indicate to the listener that you're coming to the end of that particular point. And then just continue with the points that you want to cover, the evidence that you want to use to back you up, a thorough explanation and a roundup. By the time we've reached the conclusion, you can allocate another minute and a half to this, reiterate what you set out to do and why you set out to do it. Summarise your findings but reiterate their significance. You might want to give one succinct statement and say why it's important. Then what you might want to do is to reiterate what your recommendations are for your organisation now that they're going to move forward with professional practice. Thinking about what they might want or need to do better regarding HR policy and strategy in relation to leading and developing people. And again, it boils down to those 3 things: engagement, mental health, and well-being. Finally, your references will need to go on the screen, right at the end of your PowerPoint. Head to the Academic Integrity Guide, and these are the things you probably need to search for: electronic journal articles, printed books, e-books, and possibly you might draw on Acts of Parliament or government publications in some way. mainly because it's to do with policy, and there might be something like the Mental Health Act tied in there in some way. Don't worry if there isn't. You can just search those on the Academic Integrity Guide if there is. You do need to map in your KSBs, so you can put a little table, KSBs and the slide number at the side. Then you need to think about how you might distill this script down into bullet points and flashcards, because this will help you to build your PowerPoint. For example, point 1, blah blah blah, evidence, Barnett, Travis, ZB. Explain, this suggests that this is significant because. Link, overall. Point 2, blah blah blah, evidence, blah blah blah, explain, blah, etc. and so on. From this point, rehearse, repeat that rehearsal, try and memorise what you're talking about, practice with your PowerPoint, and that will give you some hints about the topics you're talking about as you run through. Record it and keep re-recording until you're happy with what you've got. Now let's think about academic style and how this translates to a presentation. Academic presentations are, in your case, a TED-style vlog, which is basically an academic presentation, straddles the formal and informal. So essentially, avoid slang and colloquial phrases because they might not translate to people that have English as a second or third language. But also try not to be too formal because you've got to connect with the audience. You've got to have that warm presence about you as well. Contractions. So in academic writing, we can't use contractions. But you might find in a TED Talk that you can get away with it. I would still say try and avoid them if possible, but sometimes they just come out naturally. Definitely still avoid but, because and at the start of sentences if you can. Say the author in the sentence if it helps you to make it clearer that you've used the literature. You could say something like, for example, Barnett suggests. Or if you don't want to, you could just say, recent research or literature has suggested, and have them flashing up on the screen in the form of a citation. Whatever makes it clear to the assessor that you are using the literature. Do what makes you comfortable. Use signposting language, for example, therefore, furthermore. It just helps the listener to know what's coming next. Avoid deadwood because you have limited time. If you can say something in 10 words, don't say it in 20. Also, try and avoid the word because it's a time thief. And that will come through rehearsal and practice and recording and re-recording. Make it clear, concise and understandable. You need to convey your message clearly to us. And think about unity and cohesion. Get to the point and stick to the point. That's unity. That's why we use peeled paragraphs. And cohesion is about the flow from sentence to sentence. That's why we use that signposting language, like, for example, therefore and furthermore. And think about the flow from paragraph to paragraph, or in your case, from point to point. The presentation, the vlog, it should have a narrative. You should start at one point and gradually make your way through the topics you want to talk about before reaching the conclusion. And all of those topics should flow in to one another. Moving forward then, rehearse. Rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. Habits stored in the memory, they become automatic neural pathways, which we know as muscle memory. Nerves are natural. Fortunately, you should be recording this by yourself. So if you find that you have a few nerves to begin with, don't worry, by the 40th time of recording it, you'll be well over that. But if not, breathe deeply. Trigger your parasympathetic nervous system. Audience, don't assume their prior knowledge. This is why we need to explain thoroughly. This is why we need to link back to our organisation and back to our role to make things clear. Think diction and intonation. Diction is how you start and finish your phrases. Intonation is the rise and fall of your voice. It's that character and expression. And it's the thing that helps an audience to latch onto you much easier. It keeps them engaged. Finally, speak with your tutor if you have any specific concerns. If you need any sentence starters, head to Academic Phrase Bank. If you're feeling a bit stuck with your script writing in some way, they should have some good sentence starters on there for you. If you need any support with writing peels or other academic practices, for example, writing a presentation or a conclusion, head to Scribber. On our Learning Development Blackboard, we have a section called Presentations that you might want to take a look at. And YouTube, why not have a look at our very own BG tutors on there? Let's have a look at some of these now. So here we have Jack Cunningham talking about Robert Gross test. You can have a look at that if you want to. And here we have our lovely psychology tutor, Steph Blanco, talking about F&D. So there's some examples of good practice. And finally, if you have any questions or suggestions at all, just drop me an email at stephanie.bennett@bishopg.ac.uk.